Good evening and welcome to another episode of the Power Half Hour Unstoppable Business Owner. And I'm your host, Dorothy Odell, for this evening. Before we bring up our amazing guest, I just want to give a shout out to the first sponsor of today's show, and that is Cast Magic. I don't know about you, but as somebody who is a busy entrepreneur that has more than one podcast and a coach, I need to find time to, for people to something to help me anyways with all that. And so I have found Cast Magic. Cast Magic has actually literally saved me at least 10 hours of work per week. And so definitely go over, get there and get your free subscription today. There is the website there, and I will put it in the show notes as well. So with that though, I would like to bring to the stage Mrs. Courtney Robinson. Welcome to the show.
Hi, hello. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. So, for people who have no idea who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do.
Absolutely. So, again, I am Courtney Robinson, and I'm a speaker and women's style mentor with Image by Courtney. I have been building my business as a stylist for about 7 years. And what I do is help women align their wardrobe with their purpose or their calling. So I'm helping them to make sure that they are able to show up with impact and with authority, and that their expertise is allowed to shine because they feel confident and comfortable in their own skin and being authentic.
Great. That's awesome. I love that. As somebody who's not really fashion savvy, I love it when I meet somebody such as yourself. And so, what made you decide to get involved in styling?
So I moved from North Carolina to Georgia about 9 years ago when I married my husband. And I was really looking for a way to, get in community. All my friends of many years and family were all in North Carolina. And so here in Georgia, I really wanted to start to cultivate a like-minded community and meet people, meet women, that type of thing. I've always been very interested in women's Bible studies and, women's ministries and things of that nature. And so I thought, one of the best ways is to really start a business, because I've also always been very entrepreneurial spirited. And so someone had planted a seed many years ago about, are you a stylist? And, I thought maybe that's something that I can do here in this new city, to really meet other people and start to develop some relationships. And so that's exactly what I did. That's what got me into it. And that was more of a passion project, if you will. And then once I started really enjoying it and understanding the impact that I could have in other women's lives, I thought this might be something to build alongside my corporate role that I can eventually transition into.
Right.
So that's how I got started.
I love that. I love that. You know, so how I love the fact, because if you dress confident, you feel confident is what I've heard, and from interviewing several other people too that have said the same thing. They weren't stylists, but they said, when you feel confident, or when you're dressed confident, you feel confident.
Right.
And so I like I said, I love that. So how do you start with your clients then? Like, tell me more about that.
So right now, my business is, let me say, it's shifted, right? In 7 years, I've gone through several iterations as I've grown professionally and personally.
Mhm.
Right now, I've really started to go deeper with my clients as a result of some of the things that I've been through personally. And so now I have a greater and a deeper understanding for what it means to uh, be hidden in plain sight, if you will,
Ooh,
to
yes.
feel like you're not really being seen for who you are. And then also having some insecurities and fears that hold you back from really showing up as the truest version of yourself.
Right.
And so, having gone through some of those stage gates myself, now I'm able to coach my client in those ways. So, for me, it really starts with assessing four really what I call key concepts, which is what their calling is, what they feel like they're called to do, what God has called them to do.
Mhm.
what their underlying and foundational beliefs and values are, um, a little bit about fashion and color, things that they love, colors that they're drawn to. And then also, again, digging into those barriers and those areas of opportunity that they have. And so, with that foundational information, I'm able to work with them to develop what I call a purpose palette persona, which is just a way of helping you identify how you can translate, those values about yourself to show up through your wardrobe, right?
Right.
And that's what we do. I mean, that's the work in a nutshell, is this digging into those key areas, helping my clients to understand where they fall, helping them to use the power of color and color psychology,
Right.
because what we put on and how it looks sends a certain message, of course. And
Mhm.
I think you can definitely appreciate that, you know, first impressions are lasting,
Mhm.
and that we only have a really short window of time to make that first impression.
Right.
So if you can do something as small as, or seemingly small as, get your wardrobe more aligned with who you are to make a greater impact, why wouldn't you? Right. So that's
Exactly.
really the work that I do, but it's mostly helping women overcome whatever unspoken fears that they have about showing up so
Mhm.
that they can really show up and shine and make the impact that they're destined to make without, you know, overcomplicating it by not feeling put together or not feeling that they're looking the part.
Right. I love that. I absolutely love it. So it goes from the inside out, is what I'm hearing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because, and I'm glad you said that, because I always try to explain this dynamic. I meet women and they're on one end of the fence or the other, or one end of the spectrum or the other, rather. Either they outwardly they look immaculate, but inwardly they don't have the boldness and the confidence that they need. It doesn't match the outside.
Mhm.
Or it's the complete opposite. um, they're brilliant, there's so much light, there's so much expertise, but you wouldn't be able to tell it by looking at them. So
Right.
really, I pride myself in being able to bring that balance and help, like you said, the inward to reflect the outward.
Right.
So
I love that. I love that. There's nothing. I had this new hashtag I created last year, and it was called hashtag Healed is Sexy, because I think if you and it's true. Like, we all have our stuff. We all have baggage. We all have, and a lot of us don't want to deal with it, and a lot of us want to deal with it, right? I'm the type of person, if I see it and I identify it and I know that there's something that needs to be changed, then I'm on it. Like,
mhm,
but then there are some people that spend decades just like, woe is me, and
right.
never go through that. So by healing the inward, it makes the outward that much more beautiful and powerful and sexy.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. I could not agree more. And you can tell it when people shine, right? There's this natural radiance. God is shining through them because they really recognize and appreciate who they are in Christ, right?
Yeah.
And so that just frees them up to really be themselves. And that's what this is all about. Style and fashion are just tools, but it's
Mhm.
really about, how do you feel about yourself? Do you see yourself as God sees you? And how does that allow you then to make impact in your community and in your space?
Right. So with that, what are the three things that you had to overcome to get yourself where you're at in business today?
Ooh, man, that's a that's a great question. Initially, it was, I didn't feel like I looked the part. I didn't feel like, I looked um, or represented my expertise well. So initially, it was me trying to climb my way in corporate, get
Mhm.
recognized, get visibility, get better and higher paying positions and roles and things of that nature.
Mhm.
And I was able to achieve some of that just by showing up much more beautifully powerful, right?
Mhm.
In my appearance, because not only did other people see it, but it made me feel more confident and bold, right? Which
Mhm.
naturally helped me in my progression and my growth. That was the first thing. For me, the second thing was really suffering a major illness of my own and having to overcome that. So, in January of 2021, it was found that I had 4 brain tumors
Wow.
or meningiomas, and that just kind of came out of nowhere.
Wow.
And so, finding that I had that in January, and then less than 3 months later, having brain surgery or a craniotomy to remove one of the tumors that was sitting on my optic nerve and blocking my eyesight.
Oh,
So I
wow.
had an extremely vibrant recovery, but I still don't have vision in my right eye. Like they weren't able to get it all.
Right.
So that was one thing. And I
Wow.
got through that. And then a year later, so that was 21, yep. A year later, that December, I suffered a stroke in my sleep,
Oh my
or
gosh.
several strokes in my sleep. And so the first time I had a little bit forewarning, if you will, in preparation for surgery. The stroke really came out of nowhere and was very surprising, considering I, I didn't have any signs or symptoms or classic risks, if you would.
Mhm.
But what they found is that the residual of that tumor that was sitting on my optic nerve was pressing against my carotid artery and causing what they call watershed stroke in that area of my brain. So all of 2023 was me healing and getting back to feeling like myself, and you know um, just wanting to embrace life again. I didn't stop. I mean, I was still working, I was still building the business because I have this tenacity. And if anything, I thought, oh, this is not going to stop me. If I'm still alive, this is not going to stop me, type thing.
Wow.
And that's just kind of how what it's been. So those were the things, those were the 3 things. And so as a result, because I am still here and thriving, I really feel compelled, number one, to share my story. And then number two, to help people understand whatever it is, there's something on the other side of that. And
Right.
let me help you get through that, right? I mean,
Right.
when I had brain surgery, they cut me from here all the way down to this ear. I never thought I would look normal, right? I didn't know what that looked like or what that meant. And I was worried about having a scar that would be very present and visible. I worried about if my hair was going to grow back. And then I thought, oh, I'm the stylist and I get to look like a freak. I mean, those were the very honest,
Yeah.
things that were going through my head. And I had to work my way through that. I had to work my way to wanting to show up, wanting to be visible, wanting to continue to still build the business, and not using that as a reason not to thrive, but a reason to thrive, right?
Right.
And that's where I am on this side of it. I feel like, not that I needed a struggle story, but boy, am I going to use this, right? In terms of,
Right.
I need for people to understand like how powerful, how gracious, how good, how merciful God is. And that,
Mm.
even when we feel like, what is this all about? Why am I going through this? That He's showing me that there's purpose beyond what I went through.
Right. Wow, Courtney, I didn't even know any of that because that didn't come up in the pre-interview at
No.
all. And so I am like shocked because if you're listening to this for the like first
Mm,
time, I know there's
mm,
replay and it's
mm,
out there forever, including on our Roku channel.
mm.
I am floored that you
Yeah,
shared that and you keep on going. Like you still build your business through going through brain surgery and then having your stroke and things like that. And there's people that don't even get off the couch and then complaining, and it's just like wow. And by the way, you are a beautiful woman.
oh,
So
thank you.
I just like I'm sitting here and I'm just like wow, like
Yeah,
I've heard a lot of overcoming stories in my last 3 years, but this that's powerful, and
yeah,
to keep on going that shows, God put obviously a purpose and a passion in your heart to help other women,
Absolutely.
and you're totally unstoppable. I,
Uh,
wow.
yeah.
Like I said, it floors me. And yeah, okay, kudos for you.
God is amazing. I don't take any credit for it. I mean, I was stuck in a lot of fear in some instances. When I think back like a year ago from like today, for instance, where I was a few days away from, well, not last year, 2 years ago, I was a few days away from going into surgery. And last year I was just up in and out of doctor's offices, them trying to figure out if they were going to have to do surgery yet again and what that would look like. And thank goodness that wasn't the case. Um, but it put a lot of, stress and responsibility on me in terms of maintaining my own health. And I just felt like if I am here, if God spared my life, it's a miracle and I'm here to do something. So I've always been very eager and ambitious, but now it's really about, oof, he's given it to me. He's shown me exactly what my purpose is and why I'm here. And now I completely embrace that. I mean, if you told me a year ago that I'd be speaking on podcasts and sharing this, I'd be like, mm-mm, no, ma'am. But
Well,
now I do it joyfully because, I'm just so grateful and so thankful. And everybody doesn't make it out like this. Everybody doesn't recover and heal, and not just physically, but mentally and emotionally and spiritually,
yeah.
you know?
And that's hard. As somebody, my dad had gotten cancer about 4 years ago, and watching him, it was on the lung, then it was healed, and then came back again with a vengeance. And listening to other people that have had life-threatening illnesses, that fear never goes away. It's dulled, but it never goes away because, say you have a headache. Oh my gosh. Oh my, like a headache, I could be dying, right? And trying to stuff that fear down, but keep pressing through, right? And so kudos for you. I mean, and allowing yourself, because I'm sure in those times it it's hard to press through, but allowing
Mhm,
yourself to feel that, but
mhm,
keep walking through it.
mhm.
And I don't know about you, but every time that I've walked through the fire the last 4 years, it's been because I've had my tribe around me. And my tribe consists of seven
Yes.
amazing, beautiful women that we don't let us give up on each other. And
Mhm,
so without that tribe, I know I wouldn't be here today, like you
mhm,
said,
mhm,
continuing.
mhm.
Because yeah, there was no way. God put it,
Oh,
if God would have told me back when I was being bullied, back when I was a little girl, that I'd be an author and having my own shows, I would have told you you were freaking crazy.
right.
And here I
Absolutely.
am. uh,
Absolutely. I
you
I
know,
believe you. And I chose that route too to heal as well, writing.
yeah,
I just wrote a chapter as a part of a book anthology that launches in April. And the
awesome.
name of my chapter is Sickness is Not My Story. And you can only go into so much in a 3,000 word chapter, right? But
Right.
I gave an overview, and I just really wanted to hone in on the resilience and the overcoming part, because that's huge. Because when you're in it, when you're in the thick of it, you're like, what is going to happen? Like, what happens to my life? What is this going to look like? And I'm just so glad for God's mercy, for his grace, for bringing me through. And I'm still healing in some ways, but I love this season that I'm in, where I'm so excited about where he's taking me and excited about all the creative things that he's dropping in me, and the way that he's encouraging me and standing big and tall in me to show up for myself and
Mhm.
consequently for others.
Right.
All of that's very exciting, because there's a boldness that was prophesied on my life like in my early 20s, and I thought, I don't see that. And I didn't see it until very recently, right? And so it's just interesting how, life comes full circle and we learn and we grow and we just press through.
I love that you said that because I have never shared that the same thing happened to me about 10 years ago. I have it in a journal. Um, I don't know if anybody remembers the organization called Break the Gray. It's a organization that used to go into schools before the pandemic hit and talk about, making right choices, staying away from alcohol and drugs and things like that. And
Mhm.
they had a spiritual, I call her a spiritual mother, basically.
Okay.
And she was very, very gifted in prophecy and things
Mhm.
like that. And so I was at this weekend retreat with them, and I was they literally told me that my feet would walk on stages and that I had a shoe fetish. I had never told anybody in the history. They didn't even know that I love shoes. You wouldn't know it from the wardrobe that I have. You wouldn't, because I'm a running shoe girl. I have a couple pairs of dress shoes, but that's it. I mean, but if budget were no option, oh hell yeah, my Mahomes's closet would be mine. But uh, but yeah, and she said that, and I was just like, okay, whatever. Like I don't see it. I didn't see it back then. I didn't have any of that,
Right.
and here we are today,
Mhm.
on virtual stages, and I've been live and in person at a couple of events as well, and I'm just like, God, I don't know what you're doing, but
But I'm here for it, right?
yeah, I never say why me, and never say no. Well, you can hide, you can say no all you want, but eventually he's going to track you down. And you're going to end up
Mhm.
doing it, so you may as well just
Mhm.
what you resist persists. So you may as well just give into it.
Right. Right. Right.
I love it. I love it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that's interesting. Like I literally, when she told me that, I was like, I was very doubtful. I was like, and she's prophesying over me, kind of thing, because here it is 20 some years later
Mhm.
coming into fruition, right? In
Yeah.
terms of, she literally said boldness, and bold is not a word that I would have used to describe myself. I've always been pretty reserved and very, what's the word, buttoned up, if you will. Um, but bold would not be a word that I would use. But now there is a boldness that is definitely developing and coming out of me. So,
Right.
yeah.
I love it. I absolutely love that. And I'm glad that I get to be part of your journey. That's
Yes,
awesome.
me too.
Now you're part of the family, so we never let you go.
Awesome. I love being a part of faith aligned families for sure. That's great.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
love it. And so, what three things, we kind of alluded to it before, but I asked this question anyways. What three things do you help your clients overcome?
Sure. So the first thing would be confidence, right? The confidence and the insecurities, the self, just the self doubt. And, sometimes we can be our own worst enemy when it comes to like, beating up on ourselves. And so, really, it's just about let's embrace everything that you love about yourself. So, helping them overcome those things, giving them the tools to show up well, right? Because
Mhm,
anybody, if they know what and how to do it, can replicate that. So, really, it's just, equipping them with the tools.
mhm,
Um, and then, helping them align their purpose and their personality with their image, right?
mhm.
Because a lot of people think there's separation between your personal brand and your professional brand, or your brand, period. You are the brand, period. You are the brand.
Yeah,
And I really believe that. So it's helping them develop that personal brand, helping
mhm,
them dial in on who they are, understanding what I call their style statement. So being able to articulate in a few words what their style is,
mhm.
and then embodying that, right, through
Right.
your wardrobe. So, yeah.
I love that. I love that. Hmm. It's funny because I always said there was I okay, so since I've started this portion of my life, I said I was going to be the next Oprah. So what does Oprah have? She's got stylists, she's got hairdressers, she's got all that, right? So I'm putting my team slowly together.
Very good.
I told my hairdresser, I said, when the time's right, be ready, because then, and then I said same thing to my massage therapist. I said, be ready. Look at me. And now I have you to tap in as a stylist when we're ready here. And so we'll put the show on the road, and
That's right. And
we'll do this.
it takes a team, and I think that's something that I've learned in this whole process is that I've always been super independent. I've
Mhm.
always been, very self-sufficient. And I really had to learn to lean on people to ask for what I needed and what I wanted and not feel guilty about that. A
Yeah.
lot of times as women, that's something that we harbor, like we can do it all. And sometimes we can, but most of the time we cannot. And kind of like you, I had a very strong support system.
Mhm.
And then God sent me this angel, this woman that I met online who lived locally, who
So
literally drove me to every doctor's appointment for months. Months. She would show up at my door. She would be early. She would take me. She would sit with me through these sometimes frightening appointments. She would make sure I ate. Are you hungry? Do we need to get lunch before I drop you off? I mean, he literally sent me an angel like a helper, you
wow.
know? And, we had met a couple times online, but never in person. And so, with her learning about my story, she's like, hey, I'm local. If you ever, she knew that my husband commuted and, he's the principal. And so, she just volunteered her time to be a helper because she, worked from home as an entrepreneur. I'll never forget that kindness. I've been buying her lunch for for like 6 or 7 months. I'm like, "Well, you've got free lunch for life when it comes to me," because I mean, that's a lot to give of your time and, you know, um, to just show up for someone like that, and I don't take that for granted, right?
Yeah.
I do not take that for granted.
100%. There's not too many people that would do that, and
Mhm.
that's
I know.
I
I know.
I swear my dad had 9 lives, and I was in the hospital, not this cancer scare, but when he went on dialysis, and I was the
Mhm,
only one that was going. My mom had pneumonia, so she had to stay at home. My dad's
mhm,
an hour away in a different hospital,
mhm.
and I'm just like, I'll never forget it. I went to go park the car, and this time I was cleaning toilets to make money. I couldn't find a different job, so I was cleaning toilets for a friend,
Mhm.
and had used up all my savings because I had been without a proper job for a year or so, and just couldn't find it. God was not providing a job for me, and
Mhm.
then this lady said, here's my parking ticket. It still has an hour or two on it. And I sat there and I wept. I'm like, okay,
Ah,
this is just a parking ticket. But what
yeah.
she didn't realize is, had zero energy left. I had, I was literally scraping the bottom of my savings account, and, and just the kindness of a stranger
Mhm,
basically sometimes
mhm.
is all you really need. And
Right,
that was that was at least 9 years ago. So,
right.
I mean, for me to remember that now.
Absolutely. Yeah, the kindness of strangers. Yeah, it means so much. And it was just God looking out for us, sending us angels, and I love that. I love that about him that he's so intentional, that he wastes absolutely nothing, that
Mhm.
every single thing that we've gone through is going to be weaved into this amazing story that we have. And so that's kind of the posture that I have now when things come. I'm like, okay, Lord, what's next? Because I know that there's a reason and there's a purpose. Whereas before, you know, I was this, little, I don't know what you would call it, but I really struggled in the area of fear in so many different ways. And
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
I just don't think, fear and faith can really coexist. Like you've got to have one or the other.
Yeah.
But it takes practice, right? I think God takes us from glory to glory. So when we go through things, we come to a new and a better realization of who he is in our lives.
Mhm.
And it just develops
100%.
deeper trust, right? deeper trust
Exactly.
in him. Yeah.
Right. He doesn't promise he promises that life would be worth it, but he doesn't say that it's going to be easy.
Easy. Right. Absolutely.
You know.
Absolutely.
And so we just got to chug through it. Well, I can't believe the half hour's up already. Wow, Courtney, your story is powerful. Thank you so much for coming on here. And where can guests find you? Where's the best place for people to find you?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, Dorothy. And people can find me primarily on LinkedIn under Courtney Robinson. That's where I preside primarily. That's where I do a lot of connecting. But I also have a presence on Instagram, and my handle is at Image by Courtney. So between those two places, you'll find me and links and, lots of different things. I have a quiz for the process that I talked about earlier. It's called the Purpose Palette Persona Quiz that I just launched. I'm super excited about women having the opportunity to take that and then, dive deeper and have a conversation with me about where I can support and what they need and, wherever they're struggling. So yeah, those are ways that they can connect with me.
And I love it. Go connect with Courtney over on LinkedIn and Instagram. And thank you so much again for joining us and sharing your purpose and your passion. I love everything that you're doing. And this won't be the first time. I'm sure we'll have Courtney back for sure. Uh, and thank you so much for
Thank you for
coming on.
having me. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. I just want to thank you to all of our guests for joining us and give a shout out to the last sponsor of today's show, the Kimbra. If you're needing more time, money, or resources, connecting with the Kimbra. They have rituals Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to help you with all of that. So use this website here to check into that, as well as will be in the show notes. And thank you so much for joining us today. Don't forget, be unstoppable in all that you do. Go check us out on our Roku channel and our YouTube channel. Subscribe, and we'll see you same time, same channel next week. Bye for now.